So what I will do now, I'm not quite certain if you are working on the same motive. It's in the reference files. However, I would really encourage you to try to really work on your own version of it, or to follow along. And I know there will always be people that want to jump in just on the way and start with what's there. However, if it's your own strokes, and if you really started from your very own vision, it's a whole different vibe. It's much more fun too. So I decide I will have this little mountain over here, a little bit more on the background, just like that, so then it's not too dark. And then we could have like an interesting center here. That could be like a building or something that sticks out, or a temple, or something that grabs some of the viewer's attention. I'm just working with the lasso tool here, just to really speed up the process. And whatever version you're working on, just see if you can incorporate the different tools and just basically sneak them into your workflow, so you can really have a benefit of the different like shortcuts and approaches that are actually that are by itself not too hard to learn, but you kind of have to get them into your muscle memory, I would say, to really make them work and make them efficient. So now what I do along the way is constantly adjusting the levels and the tones. So in this case, I will use some curves, and I will definitely make this a little bit darker. And this already gives a nice overview. And now I'm using, like, now this, that I know this could be like a building or something, like a little dome. Just like that. Or maybe like a nice little temple. Or maybe it's actually not so little. I think you get the idea. Just find what's really like exciting for you, and really forget about the idea of making it like look nice or look perfect in any possible way. So it's really just about the act of continuing with the painting, no matter where it goes and what it's saying. So for example, now I just changed the whole scale of the scenery just by adding this temple here. And for example, this tree, I can already start to sneak it away, to sneak it out of the scene, because it's telling a different story about the size. So I'm just scaling it down a little, and maybe go with some smaller trees and some smaller bushes or rocks or other rock formations. So now that I have this, maybe I could indicate some stairs or something like this. Some temple entrance. So take the situation in which you don't know where you're going as almost as a gift, that it's something that works for you. So from here, I think it's that's much easier. Okay, now let's just pick some of the large brushes and give it one little foreground element. Maybe something like this could be already pretty nice, actually. Yeah, I think something like this is quite interesting. Just really try around. Don't be too hard on the decision. Just always keep this process as open as possible and as rough and intuitive as possible. I'm using some of the ground brushes here. Okay. We can start giving this rock a little more interesting shape, and this might be a nice situation to first incorporate like the mixer brush to have some more structure in your strokes and some anomalies, like really intuitively start incorporating other brushes at this point, so you have a little bit more of a structure and different. It's basically literally it's like a language, and you use more words when you use a bigger variety of brushes, and you slowly want to sneak your way into the detail. You just don't want to. You want to make sure, really at all costs, to not cross that detail border at this point, because it happens so fast. Just like a little bit like with a thumbnail, you will notice that you have to remind yourself and discipline yourself that it's not about the detail here. It's just still about the overall look and the overall feel and view. So just try to make efficient strokes that are thought through, and yet don't try to not overthink them. Like, really try to find your balance in how far how far you can basically think through each step, and how far it will hinder your flow of the picture. So I might actually give it some plants here with the leafy brush we just created. So it just feels more alive. There we go. And then we maybe give it some nice reflections here. Just make some shapes that we add with the lasso tool. And then we can clearly show that the ground is like a little bit wet, and it's like that. Maybe less hard on that one. Make sure it has some structure. Okay. And then then just zoom out to have sometimes like an update on the overall composition. And this is like, this could be like an interesting rock island on this weird terrain. So let's give it some more interesting shapes here. There we go. Okay. And also that one could be a little bit brighter. Oops. Like, work with selections as much as possible, and see if it's possible for you to find your own like motif. And it's okay if not. It's okay if you want to just follow along. and repaint basically. However, yeah, it's just a reminder that it's also possible to just go with your own style right away. So there we go. Okay, so now we see already that this has a certain amount of detail to it. So we can decide to actually give it a little bit of color and to give it a bit more of structure and room. And but before we do that, let's just make this very last check of just zooming out very far and seeing if we are happy with the tones. Maybe we say, for example, now I want to get much darker in the foreground. Then I take a soft brush, give it some shadows, and then really I go with a more shadowy foreground here. So you can see how dark it's possible to go here, and it's still okay, so it's still possible. And then it makes this background appear even further away. Alright, so for me this should be it. Take your time with this step, and I see you in the next part.